If you own a business, your estate plan isn't just about protecting your family. It's about protecting the company that provides for them. If you own your own business, an estate plan doesn't just involve protecting your family. It involves protecting the company that you've spent years building. Let me ask you a question. If you didn't come home tonight, what would happen to your business tomorrow morning? Who could sign checks? Who could access the bank accounts? Who could make sure payroll is taken care of? Who would actually have the legal authority to run the company? Because if the owner of the business passes away without a plan in place, those questions don't just create an inconvenience, they can create chaos. And in some cases, the business doesn't survive the transition. Today, we're going to talk about estate planning strategies that can help business owners protecting both their families and their companies. So let's talk about why business owners face unique estate planning issues. For many entrepreneurs, the business is their largest asset. Sometimes it represents the majority of their net worth. Also, the primary source of the family's income and the livelihood of many of the employees and partners. But the reality is many business owners spend years building the business while never planning for what happens if they're gone. Common problems include no succession plan, unclear ownership transfer, partners who don't know what happens next, and family members inheriting ownership but not management experience. It's so important to make sure that you've addressed these issues. A lot of times we don't think things through when we're doing our plan and we own a business. We focus too much on running the business and not so much on how to plan for when we're no longer there. So the first question you need to ask yourself is, who runs the business? A critical distinction in business succession is the difference between ownership and management. Ownership answers the question, who owns the shares or membership interest of the company? Management answers the question, who actually runs the company? Those are not always the same people. For example, a child may inherit ownership but not want to run the company. A key employee may be best suited to run the operations, and a partner may have contractual rights under a buy-sell agreement. So all of these relationships can be intertwined and need to be coordinated to make sure that your business can continue past you. And if that's not what the plan is, you want to make sure things are going to pass in the way you want in a smooth transition. Let's talk a little bit about buy-sell agreements. One of the most important planning tools for business owners is a buy-sell agreement. This is important when there are partners or when there are key employees that that have some equity in the business. This agreement addresses what happens if the owner dies unexpectedly, what happens if the owner becomes disabled, and what happens if the owner wants to sell. They may include provisions requiring the remaining owners to purchase the deceased owner's interest. Funding mechanisms can include life insurance, installment plans. Predetermined valuation formulas are also key. So typically in one of these types of agreements between the partners, typically the partners are the ones that run the business and are involved in the day-to-day, and the spouses may not be involved or may not understand how to operate the business. The partners probably don't want to be in business with each other's spouses if they don't contribute to the business. So one of the key ways to buy a deceased shareholder or deceased owner's share is life insurance. Life insurance pays out. That money is then used to buy the shares as determined in the agreement. When that's not available, we can create installment plans. So there's a payment plan on how that money gets paid out to the surviving spouse of the deceased partner. A key situation here is valuation formulas. We want to make sure that we've created formulas that determine how things are valued, how we're going to value, what numbers are going to be taken into account so that we can easily come up with the value proposition. It has to be something that is reasonable so that it can pass IRS muster. Otherwise, we need to do business valuations on a regular basis, which can be expensive. So let's now talk about business ownership in a trust. Now, some business owners place their ownership interest in trust. It's a great idea. It can allow for a smoother transition of the shares. It can avoid probate, and it can centralize management of the business assets in the trust. A trust may allow for a successor trustee to step in to manage the business without waiting for court proceedings. So there is a lot of efficiency that is gained by having a trust involved. Let's talk about a real world scenario. I once saw a situation where a business owner passed away unexpectedly, and the company was profitable, it had employees, it had customers, but it did not have a succession plan. The family inherited the ownership, but they had no idea how the business operated. Within a year, the company that had taken decades to build was gone. Not because the business wasn't viable, but because there was no plan for leadership transition. So having a plan will allow for the business to continue past your existence as a business owner. And if that's not something that interests you, at the very least, to position the company in a way that will allow it to be sold to somebody who will pay the best amount for your family. Now, additional planning considerations a business owner should consider is, how are you going to keep key employees in the event that you pass away or you want to retire? You may want to offer them some kind of equity option. Disability planning. Is there a plan for what happens if you have a stroke, if you're incapacitated and you can't operate the business the way you used to? Do we have a succession for the management of the business? And what are the implications tax-wise for the transfer of ownership? Those are some planning considerations to keep in mind, and that we're happy to walk with you and help you understand these and how they may affect your situation. So the takeaway from today's podcast is, if you own a business, your estate plan should answer these 3 questions. Who owns the business when you're gone? Who runs the business? And how does the transition happen smoothly? Without answers, even a successful company can struggle after the owner is gone. If this has been helpful to you, if you're a business owner and you want to understand more about how families structure estate plans to protect your businesses and avoid probate, I cover these strategies in my webinar, Bulletproof Your Legacy. If you will click on the in the bio or in the show notes, we'll go ahead and have a link there to sign up for that Bulletproof Your Legacy webinar. And if you found this information helpful, be sure to follow the podcast, subscribe. That way you'll be able to make sure you don't miss any future episodes. It also does help the algorithm to make sure more people are able to get access to the podcast and know what's coming up, and realize that it is a value for people. All right, then until next time, we'll see you. Bye.